There are lots of options for drawer slides, and I've used them all here in the shop. But my favorite, mainly because it's so cheap, is to make simple tracks out of wood that will mount inside the cabinet that the drawer will ride in. I'm just cutting these from well-seasoned construction lumber, but I am leaving a 1/2 inch on each side just in case I change my mind and decide that I want metal slides in there instead. Nothing fancy about installing them. Just get some glue on there, line them up with the marks, and drive in a few 1 1/4 inch brads. The drawers for this are pretty simple. I've already cut the sides from the 3/4 inch plywood that I had left over from cutting the panels for the unit. Now I'm getting ready to cut the 1/2 inch plywood for the front and the back of the drawer. I've got the front panels for the drawers and the side panels cut. Fronts are 1/2 inch, sides are 3/4. The bottom, again, is going to be 1/2 inch. I'm going to use the last 1/2 inch offcut that I have left. These drawers are not going to be full depth. I'm just using the stuff that I have. So they're going to be, I think, 18 inches, whatever this is. 18 inches from front to back on the inside. So once again, I've got to cut this in half on the miter saw. Then I can cut each bottom panel down to the right size on the table saw. I want to try something a little bit different with these drawers. Normally I would just use butt joints that are glued and nailed together, and that's usually plenty strong enough for most applications. But here I want to do something that I've done before, but I don't think I've demonstrated it in a video before, and it's what I call a partial dado. What it is, it's a small dado, usually the width of the blade, and not very deep, usually just the depth that the blade is wide. So an 1/8 of an inch curved blade would be an 1/8 of an inch deep, and it will work the same as a regular dado, except to be a lot smaller. I've got all the fronts, backs, and bottoms cut, and I've taken the time to set up the saw after running a few samples to find the best fit for the groove that I need to cut in the sides. I need to make a cut in the front, back, and bottom edge of each side, then move the fence and make another cut to get the 1/4 inch dado that I need to receive the front, back, and bottom. I've got them all cut, but now I realize that I made a mistake. I forgot that my bottoms were not the full depth of the drawer, so I cut these on the end, just like on the front, and my bottom comes up short. So what I'm going to have to do is recut this groove over here. It'd be nice if I could just, click it with my mouse and move it over here. And I don't know, it seems like you should be able to do that these days, but no, I've actually got to set up the saw again and remake those cuts. Something else that I need to be aware of now is that they have to be in pairs, a right and a left. I said in a recent video that I wasn't going to be doing any more assembly on my table saw, but as you can see, my workbench is covered, so I really don't have any other choice. The assembly on these starts with a side panel laid flat, and then I'm going to get some glue in the dado at the bottom. Then the bottom panel will slip right in, lined up with the edge of the other dado in the side, or in the end. I'm going to push that down. And then I do the same with the front and back panel. Get some glue in the dado. Then I can slip that panel in. Before I put on the other side, I'm just going to get some brads in from the side here into the end panel and into the bottom here. And what these do is they'll hold it so that I don't have to clamp it up. And that's it. That's that one assembled and, well, almost ready to go in. Just want to sand down the bottom. I also want to get a couple of coats of urethane, water-based urethane on there to make it a little bit more slick. While the glue dried on the drawers, I got started loading up the cabinet. It's also a good opportunity to get rid of the stuff that I don't actually need. When I have my steel lumber rack completely cleaned off, I can move it out of here. I think I'm going to put it in the shed for now and use it as shelving. There's not a whole lot to the doors and drawer fronts for this cabinet. They're just plain plywood. That's what I bought the good one side for. I had to take the sheet back outside to rip it in half. Now I'm going to take it over to my table saw and drill out for the hinges. I'm going to be using 3 European style hinges for each door. They'll be 5 inches down from the top, 40 to the middle, and 5 inches from the bottom. The center point of the hole that I have to drill is 7/8 from the edge. To mark for the hinge plate, I get screwed to the cabinet. I cut a strip of plywood. That's 1 3/8. I hold that flush with the face, draw a line in the back, and then I can measure up 5 1/16, and that will give me the center of where the plate should be, and I'll just eyeball that and mark where the screws will go. Then I can drive the screws in and fasten the plate. Now I can put the door on. Normally when I'm doing cabinet door with these hinges, I'll put, and if it's only got 2 hinges, I'll put the bottom hinge in and then I'll leave the top one off, the hinge plate that is, so that I can just put that on and line it up. After the door is on, use the door as a template, you could say. I've got both doors put on now, and I added roller catches right here to keep the doors closed. Now, in the beginning I said I was getting this plywood because it tends to lay flatter. Unfortunately, this is a poor example because it is cupped outwards like this, so it's sticking off a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom. It may settle in straight over time. I'll see. Even if it doesn't, it's not that big a deal. I mainly have the doors on here for appearance and also to keep the dust out of the stuff that I have in there. That was a big problem with the lumber rack that was in the corner. It kept collecting dust. Every time you went over and pulled a piece out, you'd have a big cloud of dust come off with it. I've got my drawer front and I've already attached the pull. It's just a simple wooden one. I've stuck pieces in back to stop the drawer from going in any further. I've also got a shim to put at the top here. That's about 1/8 of an inch thick. It's going to space it by eye until it looks good, and then put a couple of brads in to hold it until I pull it out. Then I can clamp it on and put some screws in from inside. As you can see, the cabinet is finished now, and I have to say that I'm totally happy with it. Makes a huge difference in this end of the shop. I was able to get all of the junk that I have piled up on my steel work table here, put that in here. All of the lumber that was on my steel rack, lumber rack, is stowed in here as well. Closed off with these drawers, dust free. Whenever I need something, all I need to do is open it up, pick out what I want, pull it out, and use it. And then when I create more scraps, which I do all the time, I could just put it right back in here. It's not 100% organized the way it could be, but I still have space, so I'm happy with that. I added another shelf up on top to, double the amount of longer storage that I have up there as well. I've got the 2 bottom drawers filled up already. This one has jigs in here. This one has shorter pieces of hardwood that were in that bin that slid underneath the old shelf. Above that, the drawer is empty. Haven't filled that up yet. And over here, this is half filled. I got shop towels in here and an old steel can. Here's the sheet goods storage I talked about before. It's actually more than 8 inches. I think it's like 10 inches because, as it turns out, I've got more than I thought I did. I also took the bin, the rollout bin that was underneath that shelf in the corner, knocked the wheels off, and I screwed it on the wall up here. And that supports the panel for the sheet goods storage. The way things were before, the steel work table was further out into the room with the sheet goods leaning up against the wall behind it. Now I've got it tucked into that corner there. It's out of the way, and it's also convenient for me to use, especially now that the top is relatively free of junk. I still have some tall, narrow stuff that would get lost in the sheet goods storage, so I think I'm going to build something a little bit less deep over in the corner there and possibly build another cabinet beside this. Another thing that I did while I was over here was I fixed up my old door, gave it a coat of paint. I added windows, more glass up on the top here to make it a little bit more efficient for the winter. Originally I was going to get rid of this door, but I've decided to keep it at least for another year.